Hello everyone and welcome to this video, which is in our great human game series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and we've got something a bit fun for you today. So a few months ago Natasha called me and asked whether I'd be interested in joining her for commentary of the British Junior Chess Championships. In fact, the Blitz and the rapid events in under 16, 14, 12, 10 and 8 that were happening before the British Championship proper. And well, that seemed like fun, and it certainly turned out to be. Natasha had some really nice ideas. So essentially, we were in the commentary room, but all the parents were around us, and all the kids as well, of course. And she was asking them at the start, do you want to show your game, explain what happened and what you thought. And well, I mean, maybe the first couple of minutes we had to ask. After that, we just had queues of kids lining up in order to show their games. It was really, really nice, and so much enthusiasm, so much energy, and also very nicely as well, so much good play. And I mean, it's very interesting to hear, kids explaining what they thought, and you're often so impressed that this grasp of quite good strategy, is how they explain what they were thinking and what they saw. It's really, really impressive. So I mean, there were lots of good performances. There were lots of kids with whom we were impressed. I do have to mention Stanley Badachoni. I thought was very impressive that he's taking part in the British Championship itself, but still incredibly keen to take part in these junior championships, put himself to the test, and he came out very well indeed with a very good 9 out of 9 in the Blitz and 8 out of 9 shed first with Livio Dupuis in the rapid. And there were many other kids who both played these events and also the championship proper, and I think that's fantastic. The game I want to show you, though, is from the under 10s, and it wasn't only the game itself, which I really liked, for a game in the under 10s, incredibly strategical, but it was also the explanations of the black player, Adamjeet Singh, which really impressed me, because he really had a lovely grasp of play across both sides of the board, improving the position gradually, stretching white by coming in on both flanks. And I mean, these are quite advanced skills, and I certainly don't think I had them when I was his age. Very, very impressed. I'll put the link to the video where you can see him explaining, and both Natasha and I were very impressed, both with this, and there was another very nice rook ending that he played. Should also mention he's got a younger brother, Amandeep, who was also very impressive when he explained one of his games to us from the under 8. So that was really, really cool. So let's have a look at the game. So we start with d4, knight f6, c4, g6, a king's Indian, which is always nice to see. I'm not sure, but if you can hear some thumping and hitting in the background, that seems to be the window cleaner who's decided to start. So knight c3, bishop g7, e4, d6, and now f3, the same system, one of my favorites when I was playing white. Castles, and now bishop e3. Bishop e3 is the main line. I always used to play the lines with bishop g5, and the Russian player Alexei Dreyev made a living out of playing knight e2. All lots of subtleties about where to put the bishop, but bishop e3 is the main line. Lots of possibilities here. Adamjeet played knight bd7. Slightly, I guess it's going to be a slightly older line, but pretty decent. And now c6, bishop h6 from white. Excellent. That's what you want to do with the same-ish. Get rid of the dark squared bishop, start pushing your pawns forward on the king's side. And now a6. And this is a well-known way of playing c6, a6, b5. I guess slightly old-fashioned. nowadays, but a perfectly good way of playing the King's Indian. And you're going to play b5, and that's going to give you a couple of ideas. Either b takes c4, weaken white's control of the center, which might give you some opportunities to strike back, or b4 just to disrupt this knight on c3. So g4 was played by white, which I guess is fine. It's not quite necessary somehow. The move you really want to play is to go h4 and h5 quickly, you know, and yeah, really, I mean, whatever happens, even if black takes the pawn on h5, normally you don't mind because it's opening the h file against the king. So g4 is just a little bit slower somehow. I mean, it will support h4 and h5, but sometimes you can just do without g4. And, well, those accelerations in the opening are quite important sometimes. So b5 played by black, h4 from white, all pretty consistent. And now e5 in this position, which again is pretty good normal King's Indian stuff. I mean, there are some various points where black can consider taking on h6 first and then playing e5. I mean, if it looks rather unnatural, doesn't it, to bring the queen towards your king for danger? But the idea is that you've removed the protection of the d4 pawn, so e5 strikes just a little bit harder. But these are, you know, these are very complicated lines somehow. All, you know, quite deep opening subtleties somehow. e5 is a good general move there. So d5 was played, and now b4 from black. That feels very consistent, just hitting this knight and disrupting the white position. Knight ce2 played now. Again, that seems very reasonable. The engines prefer knight d1. I guess it just keeps the bishop protecting the pawn, keeps a little bit more control. And, well, I mean, the after taking on here, the knight will come to e3, which is quite a nice square. Protects a lot of things and also maybe threatens to come into f5 as a sacrifice. So maybe what you're feeling is that after knight e2, these two knights are getting in each other's way just a little bit. Here there was, I guess, a little mistake, and this is maybe quite a nice thing to look at. Black played the move c5, and it was funny because just in the championship proper, there was a game between Nikita Vichugov. What's he, 2700? He's the top British player, and Supratit Banerjee, very promising junior. And yeah, he went for a structure with e5 and c5. And yeah, I mean, this sort of structure is kind of known from the 1960s and 1970s that black's got to watch out when he goes for this structure, because it can be hard for him to create counterplay. The center is blocked. And of course, there might be counterplay with on the queen side here, but white's attack on the king side somehow looks a bit more threatening because the king's there. What you'd normally recommend is that you play one of e5 or c5, but not both, and that you look for counterplay in other ways. And what the engines are giving there is, again, this move takes, drawing the queen out from the defense of the queen side, and then making this sort of counter attack with c takes d5, so opening up the c file, opening lines so that you can get in. And then there was this move b3, looking for queen a5 check, and the engines like this an awful lot for black. The idea is that it's not really that easy to get an attack for white, because, for example, even if you go h5 takes g6, what black can do is just have a rook or a queen just lurking along the second rank. And then after you go h5 takes g6, black plays f takes g6, and the rook is covering the h7 pawn along the second rank. Actually, that's just what Adamjeet did during the game. So yeah, you know, I mean, it looks dangerous. You can open the h file, even chase away this knight on f6 with a g5, but actually it's quite hard to break through. So that sort of thing would be better. I mean, in general, it's better to keep as many attacking channels as you can open. Blocking them like this can be a little bit dangerous. But okay, this wasn't. This is, these are quite subtle points. So no real worries about that. So after b3, black played rook e8, and this was a very nice move actually, because after h5, black played knight f8, and in this way, black's really covering the king side very nicely. Again, these are not necessarily the engine's favorite move, but when I'm looking at awareness of where the danger is, taking good, very good healthy measures in order to counteract it, I'm impressed simply, because these are simply good moves, whether they're the engine's most accurate move or not. So black took on g6 here, looking to open the h file, and then took on g7 here. The engines, interestingly enough, were thinking that maybe a move like bishop e3 might be best. I think that's to do with the fact that the centre is closed. So this bishop is really going to find it hard to ever get active, especially because by taking on g6, there's no longer an f5 break anymore for black. So that would have been an interesting idea there. But white played consistently, played bishop takes g7, and then king takes g7. So, I mean, the beauty of having this knight on f8 is that moves like queen h6 aren't dangerous somehow. You can just play, a king to f7 or something like that. And after g5, it doesn't matter because this knight on f8 is protecting h7. And that's what Adamjeet said. He said he was a bit more worried about queen h6 check, but he thought that king f7 was absolutely fine. So white played knight g3, and then Adamjeet played a move that I really, really liked, which is this move, knight g8. What's the idea of knight g8? Well, actually, black's just covering the entry point on h6, so the queen can no longer come on to h6, and the knight on f8 is protecting the pawn on h7. Now, I mean, it's not that that black's better or anything. I think white is still objectively better here. But I just like the strategy very, very much. There's, I think the older players amongst you, if there's any older players watching, will remember, will maybe think of the Chigorin Rai Lopez and a maneuver that Rubinstein came up with, great Polish player, in the 1920s, which involved moving his knights to f8 and e8, drawing everything on the back rank. And this reminded me of this a lot. The basic point, of course, is that, with black at the moment, you're just trying to hold the king side. And then Adamjeet is going to look for some counterplay with a5 to a4 on the queen side. In principle, I mean, Advik's played this pretty well with white. White is still better here, but I do like this strategy very much. And I think also you're always interested to see that the very young players, playing in the under 10 section, can think of things like this. You sort of do think, I can't imagine that you've ever been taught this. This is just reasoning and thinking and judging at the board itself, and I think that's incredibly impressive. So knight e2 was played, and then bishop d7, bishop g2. Yeah, what the engines want, they want something a bit more concrete around this stage. So they're looking to play g5, which is in principle quite a good idea. Sort of trying to take some dark squares, basically stopping black from having control of the dark squares. You'll see how important that became later. Interestingly enough, they're also looking to play a4, and I think the idea here is that they're you're anticipating that if you let black have his way, then black will start putting pressure on the queen side, and if black's the one putting the pressure, black can build up and maybe force white off the a file. By doing this, either you say, well, the queen side's going to remain closed forever, you'll never get counterplay there, or you sort of open the queen side on your terms, and you'll be much more ready for a5, a4. You can bring a knight to c3, maybe bishop d3 to c2 to stop a4 happening, and then maybe you can try and line up on the a pawn. It's all about trying to shape alter the shape of the game to be according to things that are good for you somehow, and sometimes forcing an opponent to attack quite before he's ready, which you see with this one, a4. Force black to open the queen side before he's really ready to exploit it. That can be a very powerful way of playing. But yeah, bishop g2 is fine, just developing the bishop and connecting the rooks. But yeah, it's not really getting at the black position. It's you can't quite see that it's part of a forward-looking plan somehow. But I mean, that's not meant to be a big criticism or anything, because yeah, I mean, I think even experienced players struggle in such positions to find proper plans and ways to proceed. And so it's not surprised that a player playing in the under-10 should experience the struggles of that much more experienced players face as well. But there was a nice regrouping now of the pieces. I thought this was very nice indeed. Rook e7 was played. And what's the idea of that? Well, we're going to see. King d1 from white, which I was also impressed with, actually, because white wants to put his king to safety. He doesn't want to put it on the king side because he's sort of thinking, well, I might want to attack there, sack some pieces. But he wanted to keep his rook on the a file, so that if black ever opens the a file, he's got a rook covering it. I thought that was pretty impressive thinking there somehow. So a5 from black now, king c2, and a4. And king b2 from white. So yeah, I mean, the engines don't really like what white's doing, but it makes a lot of sense to me strategically. So and white's anticipating what black's going to do. So I think that's a very reasonable move to have played there. But rook f7 was played. Very nice little move there. Just stopping f4 and just making the pieces look, just very harmonious here somehow. So queen e3 was played by white, and now queen f6 from black. And yeah, Adamjeet said that he was thinking that white might want to play f4 at some stage, and so he just wanted to try and prevent it. Yeah, I think what the engines were looking at was to play h6, and the reason for that is that the engines always want to play g5 in this position, which again is a way of getting control of some dark squares and stopping black later from establishing himself on there. But yeah, that white wasn't really thinking in that way. I'm pretty sure that white was thinking maybe at some stage of bringing a knight into f5. Very typical sacrifice. He wanted to keep his pawns like that. But I think it really was required to fight for the dark squares. But after rook h3, black played a very nice move here again, bishop e8. Lovely little coordination of the pieces, really. So that's freeing the rook to move over to the second rank and attack on the queen side. So you've had some movements here on the king side. You're going to have some movements over on the queen side, which is always impressive. That's in actual fact the biggest strength of chess engines, that they're able to see the whole board at once, and for them it's not difficult to look on both sides of the board. Human players do often struggle with that, just because you get focused, desperately trying to work out how to do something on one side, you forget that you could stretch the opponent and come through on the other side. So rook h1 was played, takes, and rook a7. And that looks scary, but white had anticipated it. He had knight c1 there to cover the entry square on a2. And well, a1 is possible, but you don't get much further for the moment after that. So yeah, white had anticipated that well. Now white's got pressure on the h file, but somehow this knight on f8 is an absolute rock, together with a knight on g8, just keeping white out of there. And well, I mean, we've also got the rook on a2 defending, and the queen's in the mix. Knight c1 stopped rook a2, but here Adamjeet was very alert and actually played a move that has a huge strategical value, and that's to play the move queen f4. And here, yeah, white I guess made it a little easy for black. Would have been better, I think, to just try and resist with a move like knight f1, not give black all those dark squares. However, a move like knight f1, we're going to follow up with h6 and then g5 and knight g6. I think by now it's clear that black's getting control of the kingside dark squares, and this is going to make life very, very difficult for white because of that blocked-in bishop on g2 somehow. All the white pawns on light squares, and that bishop has no scope at all. But after queen f4, white took on f4, takes, knight e2, g5. And black has a really wonderful position here. Capturing on f4 has opened up the e5 square for the knight, and as you'll see, that's where Adamjeet puts his knight straight away. And black also has, as well as the pressure on the a file, the idea of the h5 break. And as you'll see, Adamjeet organises that also very well indeed. So knight d7, rook e1 rather, knight d7 to e5, that's great. You know, white can't challenge the knight with any knight d3 because of the pressure along the a file. So bishop f1, knight f6, rook h2, bishop g6. So, you know, even looking for possible sacrifices on here somehow, right? I mean, even that's possible. Rook f2, and now a moment happened that I liked very much. Adamjeet looked a little confused, I think, that I liked it so much. But there's a very famous book by Michal Shereshevsky. It came out in the 80s. It's something like Understanding the Endgame. It was making use of a number of lectures by other players as well as some original material. But he coined the phrase, or rather I think it was the Soviet master Belavanets who coined the phrase, do not hurry in an endgame. You know, if you can play a move h5, don't hurry, play the move h6 first, see how things are, and then play h5 later. It's all about when you're in control, you don't need to rush. And that's actually what happened here, because Adamjeet played the move h6. White played rook d2, and then he played h5. And why was this particularly nice? Well, I mean, it's nothing huge, but I mean, after h5, I guess that, you know, knight h3 might happen at some stage, hitting the pawn on g5, the rook on f2 defending the pawn on f3. But when you go h6, rook d2, h5, the rook's no longer defending the pawn on f3, which means that when you later attack with the bishop and the knight, something will have to go back and defend the pawn on f3. It's you know, it's not very much at all, but it's on those details that the good technique is built somehow. That you just keep up, you just find ways to make life just a tiny bit easier for yourself, and those things add up over the course of a long game. And then at the end, you know, that's when the win at some stage falls into your lap, and you sort of think, oh well, that was easy. But it's all the good work that you've done beforehand. So I like this very much somehow. Now white keeps on defending toughly, doesn't give anything away, keeps on fighting. But I mean, it's simply a very, very difficult situation. So we got king c2 here, knight g3, king d1. I mean, white was trying to bring his king away from the second rank, I think, you know, in order to try and negate this this entry point. But now, of course, black's also got rook a1. So, but there's no advice that you can give white in this position. You just got to do what he did, which is try and hang in there, not give anything away, and hope that, you know, black gets nervous in the conversion phase. But black just did it very well, just constantly increasing the pressure. I mean, you can see what's happened here somehow. I mean, what I found impressive as well was that black didn't go for the for just a quick win or open things up too quickly. Just the pieces just got improved more and more, you know. And well, I mean, listening to Adamjeet, he was, yeah, you know, pretty aware of this sort of stuff. So takes on f1. Rook on f1. He regretted taking the bishop on f1, Adamjeet, but I think it was a very good move. I mean, there are many very good moves, but you know, it is often true that you know, this is a bad bishop, of course, the bishop on f1, but they do often say that bad bishops defend good pawns, and you know, this bishop is actually the ideal piece for defending the pawn on f3 and also the d3 square for the knight. So getting rid of it maybe feels a bit odd. I've got a great knight, that bishop can do nothing. But often it's removing that piece somehow that, you know, just knocks away the foundations of the opponent's position. And I think that's quite the case here. I mean, knight d3 was possible here, which would have won a piece, I think, because we can take and take there, take, and rook a1 check. And that's a direct consequence of taking that bishop on f1. But Adamjeet played bishop h5, which is super as well, of course, just lining up on the pawn on f3. White played rook h2, and now black decided to cash in with rook takes c1. Takes, rook h1, takes, and rook g1. And the nice point is, of course, that the rook's defending the pawn on g5. The game continued, but it was very easy for black. I quite liked the way that it was played. The knight was moved, captured a pawn, moved to an even better outpost, hitting the pawn on b3, and also freeing space for the black king to enter. And that's always very important to have the black king involved in things. The pawn on d6 is held by the knight on e5. And g1 queen is happening, so white resigned. So there we are. As I hope you can agree, I thought this was a very impressive game. From both players. In actual fact, when you're talking about under 10s, and white played a lot of good, typical same-ish moves, but just I guess didn't quite pick up on how important those dark squares were. And that sort of led to I think that was the basic thing that led to White's problems. I think White had a lot of opportunities to play this move g4 to g5 here, which would have I think stopped a lot of what Adamjeet did in the game. But White didn't quite get that, and I think that was the root cause of all his problems. But there was still a lot of good play from White, and defended very toughly until the end. Didn't give anything away until the position just collapsed, basically. But I just liked a lot of the strategy that was in there, and I liked the explanations that Adamjeet gave to us after the game. And I thought that for a player playing in the under 10s, I thought it was really, really impressive. And this was one of many instances where I thought, well, British chess is looking pretty good if we've got players who are this young and who are already playing this well and thinking in such a mature fashion. It's really, really good. So there we are. I hope you've enjoyed this game. I hope this video wasn't too long, but there really was a lot to talk about and a lot to explain. And well, when you're considering this is played by under 10s, I think that's really impressive too. Do keep tuned to this channel, and also to my blog on matthewsadler.me.uk. Plenty of stuff coming along there. Sometimes I write, sometimes I do videos. And thanks very much indeed for watching, and hope to see you at the next videos. Thanks for watching.